Yuna Kim stood at the big window of the spaceship and looked out at the dark space around them. Stars were everywhere like tiny lights on a black blanket, but she was not thinking about how pretty they looked. She was thinking about the planet they were going to, and the impossible job she had to do. The ship was called Harmony, and it was flying through space toward a planet called Vega Prime. For 3 long years, 2 big groups of aliens had been fighting each other on that planet. The fighting was so bad that millions of people had died and whole cities were destroyed. The 2 groups were called the Helix Federation and the Crimson Alliance, and they hated each other so much that they would not stop fighting. The Galactic Council had tried many times to make them stop fighting. They sent their best diplomats and their smartest negotiators, but nothing worked. The aliens just kept shooting at each other and blowing things up. Every time someone tried to make peace, the fighting got worse. Now the Galactic Council was doing something very strange. They were sending Yuna to try to make peace, and she was just a human. Humans had only been part of the galactic community for 50 years. Most aliens thought humans were weak and not very smart. They called humans the baby species because they were so new to space travel. Yuna was 32 years old, and she had short black hair and kind eyes. She wore the blue robes that all galactic diplomats wore, but she looked very small. Compared to most alien diplomats, she had studied alien cultures for 10 years, and she spoke 15 different alien languages, but she had never tried to stop a war before. Behind her, she heard quiet footsteps. She did not need to turn around to no, it was Daeho Jin, her bodyguard. The Galactic Council had told her she needed protection because Vega Prime was very dangerous, but most alien diplomats brought robot guards or soldiers with fancy weapons and armor. Daeho was different. He was 35 years old, and he looked like a normal human man. He wore a simple black suit and black shoes, and he did not carry any weapons that anyone could see. He was not very tall, and he was not very muscular, and he did not look scary at all. Most aliens who saw him thought he was just a servant, or maybe a secretary, but Yuna knew better. Daeho had been a soldier in Earth's special forces for 12 years before he became a diplomatic bodyguard. He had fought in places where normal soldiers could not go, and he had done things that were classified secrets. The Earth government had chosen him specially to protect human diplomats in dangerous places. The ship shook a little bit as they got closer to Vega Prime. Captain Minho Park's voice came over the speaker system from the bridge ambassador. "We are getting messages from both alien fleets. They are telling us to say what we want or they will destroy our ship." Yuna took a deep breath and walked toward the communication room. She could feel Daeho following behind her, but he never made any noise when he walked. The hallways of the ship were white and clean, and their footsteps echoed softly. When they reached the communication room, Yuna sat down in the big chair in front of the screens. The room had lots of buttons and lights and computers that could talk to ships that were very far away. 2 big screens flickered on and showed the faces of the alien commanders. The first face belonged to Fleet Commander Vex from the Helix Federation. He was big and scary looking, with gray skin and yellow eyes. His head was shaped like a triangle, and he had sharp teeth that showed when he talked. His uniform was covered with medals, and his ship was called Iron Fang, the Second Face. Belonged to War Chief Zorba from the Crimson Alliance. He was even bigger than Commander Vex, and his skin was red like blood. His eyes glowed like fire, and he had claws instead of fingers. His uniform was black, and his ship was called Bloodhammer Both. Aliens looked angry and ready to fight. Their ships were huge and covered with weapons that could blow up planets if they wanted to. The space around Vega Prime was full of these warships from both sides, all pointing their guns at each other. "I'm Ambassador Yuna Kim from Earth," Yuna said in a calm voice. "I speak for the Galactic Council, and I have come to help you make peace." Commander Vex made a sound like metal scraping against metal, which was how his species laughed. Another soft-skinned diplomat, he said, "We have already destroyed 12 peace ships that came here. Turn around, little human, before we add your ship to all the broken pieces floating in space." War Chief Zorba's eyes got brighter red, and he showed his sharp claws. You should listen to the Helix dog. For once human. He said, "This war will only end when one of us is dead. Go away now, or we will kill you too." Yuna did not look scared, even though both aliens were threatening her. She had expected this because she had studied how both species acted. The Helix Federation thought that being strong was the most important thing, and they did not respect anyone who seemed weak. The Crimson Alliance only listened to people who could prove they were good fighters. Most of the diplomats who came before had tried to talk about peace and love and working together. But these aliens did not care about those things. They thought that fighting was glorious and that dying in battle was the best way to die. "I understand why you feel that way," Yuna said, still speaking calmly. "But I have something that the other diplomats did not have." Commander Vex leaned forward on his screen and his yellow eyes got narrow. "What could you possibly have that would matter to us, human?" Yuna looked at the clock on the wall and then back at the screens. "I have time," she said. 3 minutes to be exact. I will give you exactly 3 minutes to think about what I am going to tell you. After that, this war will end whether you want it to or not." Both alien commanders looked confused. War Chief Zorba's claws scraped against his chair. "You threaten us," he said. "But your ship has no weapons, little human. What could you do in 3 minutes that would scare us?" Yuna glanced at her watch again. 2 minutes and 45 seconds, she said. "I think you should use that time to listen carefully to what I have to say." Behind her, Deho had not moved at all. He stood with his hands behind his back and he looked relaxed, like he was waiting for a bus or thinking about what to have for lunch. The aliens could see him on their screens, but they did not think he was important. He looked like just another weak human in a cheap suit. But Yuna could see something different in the way Deho was, standing. His breathing had changed just a little bit, and his eyes were moving back and forth as he looked at the alien ships on the screens. He was counting things and measuring distances and making plans in his head. "This is stupid," Commander Vex said. "Kill their ship right now and end this silly game." "Wait," War Chief Zorba held up one clawed hand. Something about the human woman's voice made his soldier instincts feel worried. "What exactly are you planning to do, human?" "I am not planning to do anything," Yuna said, and she was telling the truth. "I am a diplomat. I talk to people and try to help them solve problems. I do not fight wars or hurt people." She paused and looked directly at both alien commanders. "But I brought someone with me who does fight, and he is very good at his job." Both aliens looked past her at Deho, who was still standing quietly in his black suit. He looked back at them without any expression on his face. Commander Vex laughed again. "That little human? He has no armor, no weapons, no special powers. What could he possibly do to warriors like us?" 2 minutes remaining, Yuna said quietly. The aliens were starting to realize that maybe this was not going to be like the other peace meetings. Something about the way the human woman talked made them think she was not just making empty threats, and there was something about her bodyguard that made them feel uncomfortable, even though he looked harmless. The war had been going on for so long that both sides had forgotten why they started fighting in the first place. They just knew they hated each other and they wanted to win. But now this small human woman was sitting in front of them acting like she could end everything in 3 minutes. And for the first time in 3 years, both Commander Vex and War Chief Zorba were not sure what was going to happen next. Yuna sat very still in her chair and did not let the alien threats scare her. She had spent 2 years studying everything about the Helix Federation and the Crimson Alliance. She knew how they thought and what they cared about, and most importantly, she knew why all the other diplomats had failed. The problem was that every other diplomat had tried to talk to these aliens like they were humans. They talked about peace and love and how war was bad and how everyone should just get along. But the Helix Federation and the Crimson Alliance did not think like humans at all. The Helix Federation came from a planet where only the strongest animals survived. They believed that fighting made you better, and that weak creatures deserved to die. Their children learned to fight before they learned to walk, and their leaders were always the ones who could beat everyone else in combat. They thought that anyone who did not want to fight was a coward. The Crimson Alliance was even more focused on fighting. Their whole society was built around war. They had special ceremonies where young people had to prove they were brave by fighting dangerous monsters. Their greatest heroes were warriors who had died in famous battles. They believed that dying while fighting was the most beautiful thing that could happen to anyone. So when diplomats came and talked about peace, these aliens thought they were listening to weaklings and cowards. Why would strong warriors want to stop fighting? That was like asking fish to stop swimming or asking birds to stop flying. But Yuna had a different plan. She was not going to ask them to stop fighting. She was going to show them something that would make them want to stop fighting all by themselves. I do appreciate your honesty about wanting to kill me, Yuna said to both alien commanders. However, I think you should know that I have something that none of the previous negotiators had. Commander Vex made an impatient noise with his throat. What could you possibly have that would interest us human? Your species is new and weak. You have no great warriors, no powerful weapons, no glorious battle. History. Yuna smiled just a little bit, and that smile made War Chief Zorba feel nervous for reasons he could not understand. That is exactly what I have, she said. Time and the willingness to use it properly. What does that mean? War Chief Zorba demanded. It means, Yuna said, looking at her watch again, that you now have 2 minutes and 30 seconds to decide if you want to end this war. The easy way or the hard way? The easy way. Commander Vex laughed so hard that spit came out of his mouth. There is no easy way to end a war. Little human, wars end when one side destroys the other side completely. Yuna nodded like she agreed with him. You are absolutely right. Commander, wars do end when one side destroys the other side completely. But you are both wrong about which side is going to get destroyed. Both alien commanders stared at her like she had just said something impossible. War Chief Zorba leaned forward so far that his face filled the entire screen. Are you threatening us, human? You and what army? I do not have an army, Yuna said calmly. I have something much better than an army. I have one human who is very good at ending things that need to be ended. She gestured toward Deho, who was still standing behind her like a statue. Both aliens looked at him again, and Commander Vex started laughing even harder than before. That human? He said, pointing at Deho with one clawed finger. That little man in the cheap suit, he looks like a servant or maybe a clerk. What could he possibly do against our mighty fleets? Deho had not said a single word since the conversation started, but now he stepped forward just one step, and suddenly both alien commanders stopped laughing. There was something about the way he moved that made their warrior instincts wake up like alarm bells going off. 2 minutes remaining, Yuna announced, "May I speak, Ambassador?" Deho asked in a quiet voice. Of course. Yuna said. Deho looked directly at both alien commanders, and when he spoke, his voice was calm and polite, like he was asking about the weather. Gentlemen, I can see that you are both experienced military leaders. Your fleets are positioned well, and your ships look very impressive. I respect that. Commander Vex and War Chief Zorba were not sure how to respond. Most humans who talked to them were either scared or trying to act tough, but this human seemed genuinely calm, like he was having a normal conversation. However, Deho continued, I think there might be something you do not understand about humans. We are not like other species in the galaxy. Most aliens fight because it is part of their nature, or because their culture tells them to fight. But humans fight for different reasons. What reasons? War Chief Zorba asked. Despite himself. We fight because we have to. Deho said simply. We fight to protect things that matter to us. We fight to go home to our families. We fight because if we do not fight, then bad things will happen to good people. He paused and looked at both screens. We do not fight for glory or honor or to prove how strong we are. We fight to win and to make the fighting stop as quickly as possible. Commander Vex was getting impatient. You talk too much human. What is your point? My point, Deho said, is that when humans decide something needs to end, we do not worry about rules or fairness or giving the enemy a sporting chance. We simply end it. The way he said, those words made both alien commanders feel cold inside. There was no anger in his voice, no threats, no boasting, just a quiet certainty that was somehow more frightening than all their roaring and claw showing. 1 minute and 30 seconds, Yuna said. Deho gestured toward the screens showing the positions of both fleets. Right now, your ships are arranged for what you consider honorable combat. You are giving each other room to maneuver. You are following the traditional rules of space warfare. You are fighting like warriors. He smiled, and somehow that smile was scarier than any weapon. But I am not a warrior. I am a soldier. There is a big difference. What difference? War. Chief Zorba asked, and his voice was quieter than before. Warriors fight. For glory, Deho explained. Soldiers fight to complete the mission. Warriors care about honor and reputation. Soldiers care about going home alive. Warriors follow rules. Soldiers do whatever works. Both alien commanders were listening very carefully. Now something about this quiet human was making them think thoughts they had never thought before. Commander Vex, your flagship Iron Fang is a beautiful ship, Deho said. One of the finest dreadnoughts I have ever seen. 8,000 crew members. Shields that could stop a planet killer, enough weapons to destroy entire star systems. Very impressive. War Chief Zorba, your Bloodhammer is equally magnificent. Faster than the Iron Fang and with more maneuverable weapons systems. Your crew is smaller, but better trained for boarding actions. Also very impressive. Both aliens puffed up with pride at having their ships praised. But here is what I notice about both your ships. Deho continued. They were designed by species that value personal combat. Your command centers are not hidden deep inside where they would be safest. They are positioned where you can see the battle and where your crews can see you leading them. Because leaders who hide are not respected. 1 minute remaining, Yuna announced. Commander. Vex was starting to understand where this was going. What are you suggesting? Human. I am suggesting. Deho said that your command centers are vulnerable, and I am suggesting that if something happened to both of you, this war would end immediately, because both your species follow strength-based leadership. War Chief Zorba's claws extended involuntarily. You speak of assassination. I speak of ending a war that has killed millions of innocent people, Deho replied, and I speak of doing it in the most efficient way possible. The silence stretched out like a wire that was about to break. Both alien commanders were staring at this human, who looked like nothing special, but who had just calmly suggested that he could kill them both and end their war. 30 seconds, Yuna said. You are insane, Commander Vex whispered. 1 human against thousands of our finest warriors. Not insane, Deho said, practical. Your warriors are individually stronger than me, faster than me, better armed and better armored. But they think like warriors, I think like someone who wants to go home. 15 seconds, Yuna announced, and that makes all the difference in the universe. The communication room was so quiet that Yuna could hear the soft humming of the ship's engines. Both alien commanders were staring at Deho like they were seeing him for the first time. The casual way he had described boarding their ships and fighting through their defenses had shaken them more than any threat or insult could have. War Chief Zorba was the first to find his voice again, but when he spoke, he sounded different, less angry and more confused. You speak of this plan as if it is already decided. As if you have already studied our ships and planned your attack. I have studied your ships, Deho replied, matter-of-factly. Every diplomat who comes to negotiate peace should understand the military situation they are walking into. I have detailed schematics of both vessels, crew rotations, security protocols, and maintenance schedules. Commander Vex felt his throat go dry. How did you get that information? Our ships are classified. Deho shrugged like it was not important. Humans are good at getting information we need. Your species have been fighting each other for 3 years. Both sides have captured enemy vessels, and both sides have defectors who fled to neutral planets. It was not difficult to piece together what I needed to know. The simple way he said it made both aliens realize something disturbing. This human had not just made an impulsive threat. He had been planning this from the moment he accepted the assignment. But there is something else you should understand. Deho continued. I am not the only human who thinks this way. Every human diplomat who travels to dangerous places has bodyguards like me. We are all trained the same way. We all think the same way, and we all have the same mission. What? Mission War Chief Zorba asked, even though he was not sure he wanted to know the answer. To make sure our diplomats come home alive and successful, Deho said. And if that means ending conflicts quickly and decisively, then that is what we do, Ambassador. Yuna had been listening quietly, but now she decided to speak. Gentlemen, I want you both to understand something important. Deho volunteered for this assignment. When the Galactic Council explained the situation and asked for human volunteers, he was the first to raise his hand. Why? Commander Vex asked. Because he said it sounded like an interesting challenge, Yuna replied. And because he believes that 3 years of war is long enough, Deho nodded. Yes, I have read the casualty reports from this conflict. 47 million dead on both sides. 12 planets rendered uninhabitable. Entire generations of children who have never known peace. That is unacceptable. War Chief Zorba's claws scraped against his armrest. You sound like you care about our people. I do care, Deho said simply. I care about anyone who is suffering because of a war that serves no purpose. Your peoples are dying for what? At this point, can either of you even remember why you started fighting? The question hung in the air like smoke. Both alien commanders looked uncomfortable because the truth was that the original reasons for the war had been forgotten long ago. Now they fought, because they had always been fighting, because stopping would feel like admitting. Defeat Commander Vex tried to sound defiant. We fight because the Crimson Alliance attacked our colonies. We attacked your colonies because you were stealing our trade routes. War Chief Zorba shot back, and you were stealing our trade routes because we expanded into systems you claimed, Commander Vex replied, and we claimed those systems because your people were treating our settlers badly. War Chief Zorba said, and your settlers were. War Chief Commander Vex started, but then he stopped because he could not remember what the original complaint had been. Exactly, Deho said. You are fighting a war that neither of you can properly explain to someone else. You are killing millions of people because of grievances that happened so long ago that you have forgotten what they were. He leaned forward slightly, and his voice became even quieter. Do you know what humans call that kind of fighting waste? A complete waste of life and resources and potential. Both alien commanders were silent. They did not like hearing their glorious war described as waste, but they could not argue with the logic. Let me tell you what I see when I look at your two species. Deho continued. I see the Helix Federation with their advanced shield technology and their disciplined fleet formations. I see the Crimson Alliance with their superior engines and their innovative weapon designs. You are both remarkable peoples with unique strengths. He gestured at the tactical display. Your combined knowledge and abilities could solve problems that neither species could handle alone. You could explore new regions of space together. You could share technologies that would benefit both your peoples. Your children could grow up learning from each other instead of learning to hate each other. But instead, you are using all that potential to destroy each other. Deho shook his head. It is like watching two master craftsmen use their finest tools to smash each other's workshops. War Chief Zorba shifted uncomfortably in his seat. You make it sound simple, but we have honor to consider. We have pride. We have traditions. Deho nodded. I understand that, and I respect that. But let me ask you both something. How much honor is there in letting your people die for a war? You cannot explain. How much pride is there in destroying your own civilization? How do your traditions benefit anyone if there is no one left alive to follow them? The questions hit both alien commanders like physical blows. They had spent so long thinking about military tactics and battle strategies that they had stopped thinking about why they were fighting in the first place. Commander Vex was quiet for a long moment before he spoke. What exactly are you proposing? Human, I am proposing that you both choose to be leaders instead of just warriors. Deho replied. Leaders think about what is best for their people in the long term. Warriors only think about the next battle. And if we refuse war? Chief Zorba asked. Then I complete my mission. Anyway, Deho said, but it will be messier and more painful for everyone involved. Your crews will resist. Your officers will try to stop me. People will die who do not need to die, and in the end, the result will be the same because I will not stop. Until this war is over, the certainty in his voice was absolute. Both alien commanders understood that they were not dealing with someone who might give up or change his mind. This human would do exactly what he said he would do, regardless of the consequences to himself. But there is a better way, Deho continued. You can choose to end this war as leaders who put their people's welfare above their own pride. You can be remembered as the commanders who were wise enough to choose peace when peace became possible, or you can be remembered as the last casualties of a pointless war that accomplished nothing except destruction. Commander Vex looked at War Chief Zorba on the other screen. For 3 years, they had been enemies dedicated to destroying each other. Now they were both facing the same choice from the same quiet human who had somehow made them question everything they thought they knew about strength and honor and leadership. The war could end right now with words and wisdom, or it could end in a few hours with violence and death. But either way, this human was right about one thing. The war was going to end today. The only question was how many people would still be alive when it was over. The silence in the communication room felt heavy, like the air before a thunderstorm. Both alien commanders were staring at their screens, thinking thoughts that no warrior was supposed to think. They were wondering if maybe being strong meant knowing when not to fight. Commander Vex was the first to break the silence, but his voice was different now. Less angry and more thoughtful. This is unprecedented, he said. A single human threatening to end a war by force. I am not threatening you. Deho corrected. Gently? I am offering you a choice. The choice is always yours to make. But the war will end today, one way or another. War Chief Zorba leaned back in his command chair, and for the first time in years, he looked tired instead of fierce. You really believe you could do it? Board our ships, fight through our defenses, reach our command centers? I know I could do it. Deho replied without boasting or anger, just stating a fact like saying the sky was blue. Your defenses are designed to stop enemies who fight, like you do enemies who announce themselves and follow rules and care about honor more than results. But humans do not fight like that. Commander Vex said slowly. No, we do not. Deho agreed. When humans fight, we fight to win as quickly as possible with as few casualties as possible. We do not fight to prove how brave we are or to show off our skills. We fight because something needs to be protected or something needs to be stopped. He paused and looked at both alien faces on the screens. Right now, something needs to be stopped. This war has gone on long enough. It has killed enough people. It has destroyed enough worlds. It serves no purpose except feeding pride, and that is not a good enough reason for millions to die. War Chief Zorba's clause were no longer extended. His hands rested calmly on his armrests as he considered the human's words. You speak as if pride is a weakness. Pride can be a strength when it motivates you to do better, Daiho said, but pride becomes a weakness when it prevents you from doing what is right. Both of you are proud warriors from proud species, but true strength comes from knowing when to fight and when to stop fighting. Commander Vex studied the human carefully. You have been planning this from the beginning, have you not? This entire diplomatic mission was just cover for an assassination? Plot? No, Daiho said firmly. Ambassador Kim genuinely wants to negotiate peace. She believes that talking is always better than fighting, but she also knows that sometimes people will not listen to words until they understand that there are consequences for not listening. Yuna spoke for the first time in several minutes. Gentlemen, the Galactic Council authorized me to offer both your species full reconstruction aid, trade partnerships, technology exchanges, security guarantees. Your peoples could prosper in ways you have never imagined. But Daiho added quietly, those offers are only available if you choose peace. If you choose to continue fighting, then there will be no aid, no partnerships, no guarantees. There will only be the consequences of your choice. War, Chief Zorba looked directly at the human bodyguard. You would really do it. You would kill us both to end this war. If necessary. Yes, Daiho replied. But I hope it will not be necessary. I hope you will both realize that your peoples deserve better than endless war. The alien commander was quiet for a long moment. Then he asked, why do you care what happens to us? We are not your people. This is not your... War Daiho considered the question seriously before answering. Because children are dying, he said. Finally, children who did not choose this war. Children who just want to grow up and have families and build things instead of destroying things. When children die because adults cannot stop fighting, that becomes everyone's responsibility. Something in his voice made both alien commanders understand that this was not just a job for him. This human genuinely cared about people he had never met. People from species that were not his own. Commander Vex was studying his tactical displays, showing the positions of both fleets. Thousands of ships filled with warriors who had been fighting for 3 years. Warriors who had lost friends and family. Members to this conflict. Warriors who would not understand why their leaders suddenly wanted to make peace. How do we explain this to our crews, he asked. How do we tell proud warriors that we are surrendering to a single human? You do not tell them. You are surrendering, Daiho said. You tell them you are choosing victory. What kind of victory? War Chief Zorba asked. The only kind that matters, Daiho replied. Victory over the forces that were destroying your civilizations. Victory over the waste and death and hatred that this war represents. Victory over the pride that was keeping you from seeing better solutions. He gestured toward the screens showing both fleets. Your warriors are brave and skilled and honorable, but they have been trapped in a conflict that could never be won by fighting. The Helix Federation could never completely destroy the Crimson Alliance, and the Crimson Alliance could never completely destroy the Helix Federation. You are too evenly matched, so you have been killing each other for 3 years in a war that was always going to end in stalemate. Unless someone changed the rules of the game. Commander Vex said slowly, exactly. Daiho nodded. I am changing the rules. Instead of 2 species fighting each other. Until one is destroyed, you now have a third option. Work together or face a threat that neither of you can handle alone, but you are just one human. War Chief, Zorba said. I am one human today, Daiho replied. But if this war continues, there will be more humans tomorrow. And then more the day after that. Because the Galactic Council has decided that this conflict threatens the stability of the entire region. He let that sink in for a moment before continuing. And humans are very good at ending threats to galactic stability. We do not do it with massive fleets or planet-killing weapons. We do it by identifying the source of the problem and eliminating it quickly and efficiently. Both alien commanders understood the implication. If they refused this offer, the next human envoy might not come alone, and the next one after that might not bother with diplomacy at all. Ambassador Yuna activated her diplomatic recorder. Gentlemen, I am prepared to begin formal negotiations immediately. Both species would retain their territorial holdings. All prisoners of war would be exchanged. Reparations would be handled through the Galactic Council. Reconstruction aid would begin within 30 days. She paused and looked at both screens. This offer expires in 60 seconds. If you refuse, then this communication ends, and you will have to deal with my bodyguard instead. War Chief Zorba looked at Commander Vex on the split screen. For 3 years, they had been mortal enemies. Now they were being asked to trust each other enough to make peace. Commander Vex met his gaze, and for the first time saw not an enemy, but another leader who was tired of watching his people die 30 seconds. Yuna announced. War Chief Zorba took a deep breath. I am tired of this war. He said, I am tired of sending young warriors to die for reasons I can no longer remember. I am tired of explaining to mothers why their children will never come home. Commander Vex nodded slowly. I too am tired. The Helix Federation has lost enough blood. We have proven our courage 1,000 times over. What more is there to prove? 15 seconds, Yuna said. Both alien commanders looked at the quiet human who had somehow convinced them to question everything they thought they knew about. Strength and honor and leadership. 10 seconds, 5 Commander Vex and War Chief Zorba looked at each other across the void of space that had separated their fleets for 3 years. We accept, War Chief Zorba said. We accept, Commander Vex agreed. The war was over. 5 seconds, Yuna said, and her voice was so quiet that both alien commanders had to lean forward to hear her. 4, 3, 2, 1 time, she announced, and suddenly the communication room felt very different, like the air itself had changed. War Chief Zorba was the first to speak, but his voice was not as loud as before. This is madness. You cannot be serious about this threat. I am completely serious, Deho replied, and he sounded like he was discussing what to have for lunch. Ambassador Kim asked me to help end this war. I told her I could do it in 3 minutes. The 3 minutes are up. Now I am asking you both politely to surrender and begin peace negotiations. Commander Vex's yellow eyes were wide with disbelief. Even if you could somehow reach our ships, which is impossible, what makes you think you could fight through thousands of our best warriors? Deho was quiet for a moment, like he was thinking about how to explain something complicated to children. When he spoke again, his voice carried a weight that made both aliens listen very carefully. Because I have done it before, he said. Not thousands, but enough to understand how it works. Your warriors fight with honor. They announce themselves before attacking. They issue formal challenges. They follow rules of combat. They give their enemies chances to surrender or retreat with dignity. He paused and looked directly at both alien faces on the screens. Humans learned a long time ago that honor gets good people killed. When we fight, we do not announce ourselves. We do not issue challenges. We do not follow rules that make the fighting last longer. We identify what needs to be done, and we do it as quickly and efficiently as possible. But you are just one man. War Chief, Zorba protested, and thousands of us. Deho nodded. Yes, that is true. But let me ask you something. War Chief, how many of your warriors have ever fought a human? None of them. War Chief Zorba admitted, And Commander Vex, how many of your crew members have studied human? Combat tactics we have not bothered. Commander Vex said, his species does not seem worth studying. Exactly. Deho said, that is your first mistake. You are both fighting this war using strategies and tactics that work against each other, but I am not. Like you. I do not think like you. And I do not fight like you. He walked over to the tactical display that showed both alien fleets floating in space around Vega Prime. The ships looked like toys, but Yuna knew that each one carried enough firepower to destroy cities. Look at your formations, Deho said. Running his finger across the display, the Helix Federation favors tight groupings with overlapping shield coverage. Very good for defense against conventional attacks. The Crimson Alliance prefers spread-out aggressive positioning with maximum firepower forward. Excellent for overwhelming enemy positions. Both alien commanders watched as he analyzed their fleets with obvious expertise. These are textbook formations, he continued. Perfect examples of your species' military doctrines. You have both been fighting this war for 3 years, using the same strategies over and over again. You know exactly what the other side is going to do, and they know exactly what you are going to do. So, what, Commander? Vex demanded. So neither of you has any idea what I am going to do, Deho replied. Because I do not fight like either of your species. I fight like a human war chief. Zorba leaned back in his command chair. You speak as if your entire species are soldiers, but we have studied your history. Most humans are farmers and teachers and merchants. That is true? Deho agreed. Most humans are not soldiers, but every human understands that sometimes peaceful people have to do violent things to protect what they love. Your species fight. Because fighting is glorious, humans fight because someone has to. There was something in the way he said those words that made both alien commanders feel cold. They were beginning to understand that they were not dealing with a typical diplomat's bodyguard. Deho pulled up detailed schematics of both command ships on the display. Commander Vex, your Iron Fang is truly impressive, he said. 8 levels of security between the docking bays and your command center, each. Level defended by 200 warriors armed with plasma rifles and energy shields. He switched to the other ship, War Chief Zorba. Your Bloodhammer is equally well defended. Fewer levels but more warriors per level, and they are all veterans of boarding. Actions. Very formidable. Both aliens began to relax a little. It seemed like the human was finally understanding how impossible his task would be. But then Deho smiled, and that smile made them both feel nervous again. Here is what you are not understanding. He said I would not fight through your security levels. I would not announce myself at your docking bays. I would not give your warriors time to organize a defense. Then how would you reach us? Commander Vex asked. The same way humans have been solving impossible problems for thousands of years, Deho replied. By not doing what the enemy expects. He touched the display and zoomed in on specific parts of both ships. Your command centers have emergency evacuation pods in case the ship is destroyed. The pods have independent life support and communication systems, so you can continue commanding even if you have to abandon ship. Yes, War Chief Zorba said slowly. What of it? Those pods have to be accessible from outside the ship for rescue operations, Deho explained. That means they have external docking ports, and those external docking ports are not as heavily defended as your main docking bays because no one would be crazy enough to try to enter a warship through an escape pod. Both alien. Commanders stared at him in horror. You would not. Commander Vex whispered. I would, Deho said calmly. It would be dangerous and difficult and probably stupid. But it would also be unexpected, and unexpected tactics are how smaller forces defeat larger ones, but even if you could get inside. War Chief Zorba said you would still have to fight your way to our command centers. Would I, Deho asked. or would I just have to make sure no one could stop me from getting there? What does that mean, Commander? Vex demanded. It means, Deho said, that human soldiers are taught to think about problems differently. Your warriors would try to fight me honorably one-on-one or in small groups. They would want to prove their individual courage and skill. He paused and looked at both alien faces. But I would not fight them. I would avoid them when possible, disable them when necessary, and eliminate them only if I had no choice. I would not be trying to prove anything. I would just be trying to complete my mission. Silence stretched out for a long time. Both alien commanders were beginning to realize that this quiet human in his simple black suit was not making empty threats. He was describing a plan that he had obviously thought about very carefully. And then, what War Chief Zorba asked quietly, "After you reach our command centers." "What then?" "Then I ask you both one more time to end this war peacefully." Daiho replied, "And if you refuse, then the war ends anyway. Because both your species follow strength-based leadership structures. With both of you gone, your subordinates would have to choose between continuing a pointless conflict or negotiating peace. You would really do it." Commander Vex said. "It was not a question. If that is what it takes to save the lives of everyone on this planet, then yes," Daiho said without hesitation. "But I would much rather that you both choose to be reasonable people who care more about their followers than about their pride." Both alien commanders sat in their command chairs thinking, thoughts they had never thought before. This human was offering them a choice, but it was not really a choice at all. It was a simple statement of fact. They could end this war now, or someone else would end it for them, and for the first time in 3 years, both Commander Vex and War Chief Zorba began to wonder if maybe there was a better way. The moment the words were spoken, everything changed. The communication room that had been filled with tension and the threat of violence suddenly felt peaceful, like a storm that had finally passed. Ambassador Yuna Kim smiled for the first time since they had arrived at Vega Prime. "Thank you both," she said to the alien commanders. "I know this was not an easy decision, but it was the right decision. Your peoples will remember this day as the beginning of a new era." Daiho stepped back to his position behind Yuna's chair, and once again he looked like nothing more than a quiet bodyguard in a simple black suit. But both Commander Vex and War Chief Zorba would never see him that way again. They had learned that sometimes the most dangerous people are the ones who look harmless. Commander Vex was the first to speak after the decision was made. "I have one question for you, human. Before we begin these negotiations, I need to understand something. Are you really confident you could have done what you threatened?" Daiho considered the question carefully, then nodded. "Yes, I am confident, but I am also very glad I did not have to prove it. Violence should always be the last option, not the first war, Chief." Zorba leaned forward on his screen. "Why? What makes you so certain?" "Because I have studied both your species for 2 years," Daiho replied. "I know your strengths, your weaknesses, your tactics, your psychology. I know how your warriors think and how they fight. I know the layout of your ships and the patterns of your security. And most importantly, I know that neither of your peoples has ever faced a human in single combat." He paused and looked at both alien faces. "But more than that, I know something about humans that most aliens do not. Understand, we are persistence hunters. When we decide something needs to be done, we do not stop until it is finished. We do not get tired. We do not get discouraged. We do not give up. That is our greatest strength as a species." Daiho continued, "Not our technology or our weapons or our intelligence, though we have all of those things. Our greatest strength is that we simply refuse to quit." Commander Vex was quiet for a moment, then said, "I think I understand now why the Galactic Council sent humans to negotiate this peace. You do not just end wars. You show us why we were fighting them. Exactly, Yuna said. Most species fight because it is part of their nature. Humans fight because we have to. When we have a choice, we always prefer to talk. Over the next 3 hours, the formal negotiations began. Both alien fleets maintained their positions, but their weapons were powered down and their shields were lowered for the first time in 3 years. Officers from both sides began talking to each other about prisoner exchanges and supply corridors and the 1,000 practical details of ending a war. Yuna worked with military advisors from both species to establish neutral zones and demarcation lines. The Helix Federation would retain control of their original territories. The Crimson Alliance would keep theirs. The disputed systems that had started the war would be administered jointly with profits, shared equally. War Chief Zorba surprised everyone by suggesting that both species work together. To rebuild the planets that had been damaged by the fighting, Commander Vex agreed and proposed that they share medical technology to help treat the wounded from both sides. As the hours passed, something remarkable happened. The alien commanders, who had been bitter enemies that morning, began to respect each other. They realized that they had more in common than they had ever imagined. Both were leaders who cared about their people. Both had been trapped in a conflict that neither wanted to continue. Both were tired of death and destruction. Captain Minho Park reported from the bridge that ships from both fleets were beginning to withdraw to safer distances, no longer positioning for immediate combat, but not fleeing either, just giving each other space to breathe. By evening, the basic framework of the peace treaty was complete. Prisoner exchanges would begin immediately. Medical aid would be shared. Reconstruction efforts would start within the month. Trade agreements would be negotiated over the following year. But most importantly, both species agreed to establish a joint council to prevent future conflicts. They would meet regularly to discuss problems before they became wars. They would share intelligence about external threats. They would train together and explore together and build something better than what they had been destroying. As the negotiations concluded, Commander Vex asked one final question. Ambassador Kim, why did your government choose you for this mission? You are young, and your species is new to galactic politics. Why not send someone with more experience? Yuna smiled. Because sometimes you need someone who thinks differently, she replied. The experienced diplomats tried to solve this problem using traditional methods. They failed because this was not a traditional problem. This was a problem that required a different approach. And what approach was that? War Chief Zorba asked. The human approach. Deho answered. Understanding that some problems can only be solved by being willing to do whatever it takes to solve them, but also understanding. Yuna added that violence should be the last resort, not the first. We came here hoping to negotiate peace. We brought the ability to enforce peace only. As a backup plan 3 months later, the Treaty of New Terra was signed in a ceremony that was broadcast across